What's up, Raider Nation? Happy Friday. So the Raiders continue to clean house almost completely, but Rob Leonard, run game coordinator of the defensive line, is still in Vegas. He has 13 years of experience under his belt in the NFL, and much longer overall as just a head coach if you combine college. Um, Guys in the locker room, love him. So, does that mean that he could possibly be our next DC? I've been talking about it the last few episodes. I think so. Max Crosby loves him. Before all this noise, I'm sure most of Raider Nation knows who Rob Leonard is. So, if he's not considered, or if he doesn't end up being our defensive coordinator, he's at least due for a promotion, right? I wouldn't be opposed to it, even though he doesn't have the experience to be the defensive coordinator, technically. You got to start somewhere. And I think Rob Leonard, actually, my opinion, I think he does have the experience to possibly become a great defensive coordinator. Now, if you throw Jim Schwartz in the mix, I think my opinion changes a little bit. If we have an opportunity to get Jim Schwartz, that's who I want. I just don't think that that's likely. I don't think Cleveland's just going to let him go like that. So they're probably, and now it sounds like he's just going to want to take a year off, anyways. So, I'm excited to see what happens with Rob Leonard. Of course, we want to interview a lot of candidates, but I think he's a great candidate. I think he deserves at least an interview, and I've been mentioning that for the last few days, and it seems like those conversations are starting to heat up a little bit. Um, Mike McCoy, we just made a hire. So it looks like Clint Kubiak did exactly what he said he was going to do, and that's get straight to work. We hired Mike McCoy, and I'm happy with it. McCoy's a QB whisperer, right? Like most recently, look what he did with Cam Ward. It's not saying too much about a shitty Tennessee team, but as soon as Brian Callahan was let go, Mike McCoy, you could see the improvement with Cam Ward. So definitely looks like we're gearing up to get that young quarterback, which is Mendoza, unless what a lot of insiders say, unless someone does something really stupid and offers us multiple number one picks, then maybe that conversation changes a little bit. But it looks like they're gearing up for Mendoza. So Mike McCoy, that's a really good pick. Just mentioned what he did in Tennessee. um, and I mean, he was the head coach in San Diego when the Chargers were San Diego for 4 seasons. So, he worked with Philip Rivers. He was intern coach with Tennessee. They probably should have just hired him, to be their head coach. Now they got Saleh. I don't know if that's an improvement. But kind of looking at Mike McCoy's history, 2000, 2008, he was the quarterback's passing game coordinator, quality control. And then he was with the Denver Broncos from 2009, 2012, San Diego, as I mentioned, 2013 to 2016, back with Denver in 2017 as offensive coordinator, Arizona Cardinals 2018 offensive coordinator, Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback coach. So he is coaching up Trevor Lawrence 2022, 2024. And then the intern coach for Tennessee. And now he's with us as the assistant head coach. And I think that's great, for him to come in. It's a great pickup, for first time coach Clint Kubiak. I think that's going to be nice to have Mike McCoy by his side, and um, who's up front about calling plays as a team. I think that's great for Clint Kubiak. I was listening to a Tennessee, insider that had some input on this pickup, and they say, Mike McCoy was God sent when when they let Brian Callahan go. So, crappy team right now, but you did see improvement with Cam Ward. So that's really promising. I'm excited about that they, made that move. And then yesterday we interviewed the Seahawks wide receiver coach, um, Jackson, for the OC position. Prior to his pro experience, he has a lot of college experience. I think most recently Baylor, and there are a few other teams. Um, but he's currently the wide receivers coach. He started in 2020 with Carolina Panthers. 2020 as a wide receivers coach, and then 2021 he was the offensive pass game coordinator, wide receiver coach. 2022, he was a wide receivers coach through 2023 with Pittsburgh Steelers. Um, and then he was also, most recently, with Seattle for 2 years. So now we have him, and he's had a good record with Seattle. So he's interviewing for that offensive coordinator job. Um, we're also interviewing the Rams defensive pass game coordinator, Aubrey Pleasant, for the vacant DC position. So I was talking about Rob Leonard, but now we're talking about the defensive pass game coach, Aubrey Pleasant. He's uh, I don't know a whole lot about him. I am aware of what he does and the and the franchise that he's with. So it's promising that they're getting the wheels turning, and we're starting to hear more candidates for the DC position. So more to come on that. Besides that, I don't have you know much else to really speak about that's solid. Right? Again, I mentioned in past um, podcasts that I'm not going to entertain the Max Crosby thing too much until we have like some concrete, things to talk about. Right now, I just think it's a lot of smoke. And where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I'd be naive to think that there's nothing going on. I think the majority of it is rumors and kind of stirring the pot from the mainstream media. But I'm sure there's a little bit of truth, behind the conversation with, all the head coaches and all the defensive coaches, well, mainly head coaches that Max Crosby had to go through, and all the losing seasons. I know there's a little bit of unhappiness. So I think there's, some relationship building that's going to need to happen. I know he wasn't present, at Kubiak's introduction. Um, I personally thought it'd be cool, or I think he should have been there. But Kubiak, mentioned that he had coffee with him at the facility. So again, I think it's a lot of smoke, not enough for me to talk about. But I do think where there's smoke, there's fire. So there's definitely some relationship building um, that needs to happen, before the season starts. And I think it's important for Max Crosby to be involved, or with this defensive coordinator hiring. I know Max said he kind of wants to stay away from it, nowadays, and just focus on playing, which is fine too. But I'm sure they're going to ask him for his input. And right now, I could only assume that Rob Leonard might be one of his top guys, and Jim Schwartz, because he spoke on that. So, what do you think, Raider Nation? Please leave your comments. Follow, like, subscribe if you enjoy the content we're talking about. But I'd love to see your comments. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And if something else breaks, from now until then, I'll try to hop back on. But all right, Raider Nation, peace out.